It is, do we have an agenda?
Yeah, it's this.
Okay.
Well,
No, I just didn't know if I had one to read off of.
And could we just do the pond proposal really quick and then get that out of the way, and then Brian can work on that, the RFP?
Yeah, can we open the meeting?
Oh, jumping ahead.
Good evening. Welcome to Town of Ayer's Conservation Commission meeting. This is a special meeting open to the public for the discussion of our wetland bylaw that we will be bringing forth at town meeting in the spring. And I think it's important that we mention to everybody, I'm sure the word bylaw sounds concerning, but the reason we're talking about a bylaw is to better protect the resources we have here in town, above and beyond what we have in the state's laws. Did we find out how many municipalities have bylaws?
No, but it's about half.
About half.
Mostly on the east side of things.
That would make sense. So, why don't we go to the RFP, even though it's completely unscheduled? So actually, let's amend the agenda, the non-existent agenda, to include the RFP.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. So what would you like to talk about?
Oh, just,
Do you remember in Doc Hollywood? And he says, and they said, we should offer him an extra $5,000. We thought we'd take 3/4 motion of the board. Motion? Yeah. $5,000. Remember that? What a great movie.
I think we need to meet on Mondays regularly.
The weekend to recover from like last.
So
Weekend was recovering from last week.
I read your excellent draft,
Well, that's very kind of you.
and you make reference to the photography plan.
Yes, which I haven't generated, but isn't that fun?
Isn't that fun? And then, and I just made a couple corrections. Tweaks.
Did you change Brian's name to Brian?
I changed Brian's name from Becky, and
2006.
and then
Because I had this was the 2008 version. I didn't have your latest version, and I felt guilty asking you for it. So I started from the old version to try and remember if there was anything else in there that we had written out.
And then I
or-
went back and forth between the latest version and yours. The only thing on the attachments, I think we
Seems
decided.
like an awful lot of writing.
Oh, that one, we just decided to put it, instead of including the attachments, refer to our website.
That's a great idea.
And
That's spiffy.
I don't think we need the baseline ACT 2005 report, but we do need to add the geosyntax.
That's nifty keen.
Okay. So we'll get rid of that one. And then the only, and that stuff, just the date, copies, and
Yeah, so I wasn't sure I left that date open like we had on yours, and I couldn't remember what we'd said during the meeting.
Tuesday, January 24th.
Is the day that the bids are due,
Yeah, I knew. Because we meet then on the 26th.
or as the kids
We
say,
have-
did?
The only other thing was, and if you see on the bottom, looking at the minutes, which I haven't done yet, we had raised the question of adding 2 little lines.
On each one? Additional treatments required to meet the test. So,
I think you were thinking in the scope of work, and then also saying we wouldn't do final payment until.
so what did I? Boy, that ticks me off. Under scope of work, I changed it to all ponds. I don't know how I went back to both. I remember doing it.
Yeah. Computers.
Probably how
Except when they're
Yeah.
but otherwise, yeah.
No, it's good. It's very to the point, very succinct.
But
Yeah.
The only
I'm just looking at you, I didn't send you the email about the 3 books you have.
Oh, I know, you have to tell me which
Yeah.
ones, because I looked through some and I'm like, is that mine, or is that a hit? I mean,
Yeah.
CCs, I mean, I didn't know.
I'm not.
Oh, and I loved the
We'll figure it
tricky
out.
part.
We'll figure it out.
A plot
They're not going
of
anywhere.
pre-treatment data points to be submitted to the commission within 14 days of the first treatment. So you can't change the pre-treatment to match the post-treatment to say, look, 90%.
yeah.
I thought about that. We're giving them the opportunity to
Yeah.
wait for the results and then go, what do you think the pre looked like? Oh, about like this.
You could take the post-treatment and then say, okay, let's just add on 90% more.
Right?
It's really good.
Yeah.
You hear them standing back going, nailed it! High-fiving in the office. Right? Slopping their chemical beverages all over each other. Yeah, I remember we talked about that, and I guess I want to think about that.
So I have a question about how they will assess. How will that
Square area.
add to the cost of
Well,
the overall cost?
So one of the things that we faced up to the last time was, how do you do it any other way? The only other way is to pay someone else to do it. Pay someone else to go out and do the analysis, and then
Yeah.
pay someone else to analyze what they finished with.
Right.
And so one of the reasons to do what we did the last time was so that you could literally take the two and slap them over each other and say, here's the first line, there's the second line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with regard to their, they came in with a quote, right?
They did.
Price for X to do
So-
X, Y, right? Did that include the?
It has to.
It has to. But
Right.
to the extent that we have written in the RFP?
This is exactly what the last one was done based on, was on the 10 foot.
Okay.
And the idea was that so when we had talked to them, when they came in to talk to us, Dominic, I think it was, we said something along the lines of, is this something you can do? And he's like, oh yeah, it's no big deal, because they go around
Okay.
and they take their boat around to figure out how much they're going to do. I guarantee that what they do in their boat is they ride around and they kind of roughly, determine what the square area is off of a Google Earth map, right?
Right.
And then they go around and they verify that, yeah, that's about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then they use that to calculate it.
Okay.
So they have to go
Alright.
out with a boat anyway. He
Okay.
told us that no matter what, he does a site visit on
Right,
every
right.
pond. Has to do it.
Okay. The other question, so the other question is, there's a huge area in Flanagan, as you know, right over where it's real shallow, where, in a couple of years it could be, muck and trees are going to grow there. Right?
In a couple years.
Yeah, succession is
I'd say it's muck now.
well, it's muck now, right? So all those plants die. Where does the vegetation go? Where does all that?
It settles.
You waited
And
for us
then-
to be on
and then-
camera to ask this question? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
So-
because I'm just worried that they'll treat and it.
I guess
the treatment won't amount to getting rid of it. It will have to be pulled.
So the real problem
Right.
is that at some point that area isn't going to be pond anymore.
True.
It's going to be Sandy Pond,
Yep.
Flanagan Swamp, Flanagan's Pond. Because the only other way to do it is to go in and remove the material.
I know.
So-
And dredging
And
is
dredge.
horribly expensive.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also we would have to get the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers to
Yeah.
sign into it.
Yeah.
You're talking about a multi-million-dollar, multi-year project.
Just asking.
So here's where it gets hard, right? So So you've got Sandy Pond, Flanagan's Pond, in an area that will eventually become an actual wetland, and it just is going to be.
Yeah, because it's so shallow.
Yeah. 'Cause it-
And unless you remove the material, which again you can't do without multi-millions of dollars and
Yeah.
government permitting,
yeah.
that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But that might, in 4 years might be the least of our worries.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Hey, so rather
Frequency
than
We know we won't be thinking.
perhaps offering up the plot point and the photo point thing that we were discussing, I was thinking and chewing on this, if you were to integrate a peer review process and to say that as part of this contract, you guys will hire a third party and
We would have to hire. You can't let them
right,
hire.
but it's one of these things where because we've only got the one contract available, so like we would choose and like one of those shell games with money. Anyway, peer review as opposed to photo and having them self-evaluate.
Well, so the problem you run into, maybe the right thing to do then is to say, you know what, let's put this on the side for 10 minutes, right, for a day tomorrow. Reach out to Geosyntec and ask them if that is a service they would provide to go out and determine what the extent of the weeds was before we treat and after, to be the burden of provide the burden of proof. Because who better than Geosyntec to go out and do that?
They fit all the maps.
Don't we have to put that out to bid too then?
Well, I'll put it this way: we hire the third party,
Yeah.
right? So we have a couple different things. It could go out to bid, but also if it's less than $5,000, is it 10 now? It's less than $10,000 is discretionary.
Well, the problem is simply that the commission was given this money under this set of directions, and maybe doing the peer review as a separate cost.
I wouldn't call it peer review so much as I would say it's actually part of the RFP, in that if someone goes in and does the work on its performance evaluation.
Yeah.
So, because peer review just sounds like, it sounds like all the people that, there's a strong opinion against academia and the elitists right now. However, we want to make sure they've done it right.
Right.
That's, performance review, and that's a whole different thing. So, and quite frankly, it's
But it
probably,
might simplify this whole thing quite a bit if there was a way
Right.
to make that work.
it certainly would. So maybe it's worth asking him. I mean, he's been out on a boat on, what? What?
We need to get this done.
Oh, yeah, we're kind of getting diverted,
We're
aren't we?
going down a
Hold on a
rabbit
sec, we just
hole.
said tomorrow.
Rabbit hole.
We just said tomorrow.
I know. But if
So-
we're going to have a January 24th thing, we need to get it out like this week.
Yeah, yeah.
We're going down a
Well,
rabbit
hold on a
hole.
sec.
Yeah.
You want to give them more than, how many months do you think they should have to respond to an RFP like this?
I have no idea.
Would 30 days be enough?
It's usually 30 days, isn't it?
Then you have 2 weeks. So
Okay.
tomorrow, if Brian reaches out on that, then literally we could go forward from there. Do we have another meeting between now and the?
No.
We've got, what, the 10th of January?
Yeah, we can't wait till then.
12th,
Then why did we wait till the 8th?
12th of January.
All right, so
To Jess's
Oh,
point,
12th.
is everything else in agreement, and is everything
oh
else?
yeah,
in
no,
agreement?
everything. The only the only question is how do you measure their performance, right? We know that we're going to hire somebody who's licensed and will spread chemicals in the ponds and the weeds will die. Okay, that's indisputable. Now, did they kill off enough weeds? That's the only thing we're really talking about. So, the only thing that's possible is that some other company is willing to do the review performance testing to verify, to validate that they did their work and that they finished up what they were supposed to finish up.
As opposed to what's already written, which seems fine.
It worked before, and quite frankly, when people went around on the pond afterwards, people were like, "Oh, it looks like we really knocked the weeds back." So,
So in the spirit of simplicity, maybe we should just go ahead and do it that way.
Well, only, because we always, after we do one, then we always look at the report we get, and then that's when we start refining things for the next one.
well, because so the first time we did it, we didn't have it. We said 85%, and we realized afterwards that we had just bought magic beans because
Yeah.
they went like this. Yep, 85%.
Right.
So then we said, okay, so how do we do it? Well, and immediately we thought, make them buy a satellite, right? Satellite photography. It's the only way to do it effectively. And then we realized that would cost too much. Drone,
Drones could
So
make
then-
that cheap, cost effective soon.
enough. So then we said, it's not true. So then we said GPS. That's easy enough to do. And we actually asked the people who do it. And we said, could you do it with a GPS? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Great. Okay. So that was how we came up with that standard. And then after the last time, we said, gosh, I wish we had asked them for more maps, or we still have the fox guarding the hen house. What do you do about this? And the basic answer is if they provide a map before and a map after, you are truly depending upon their honesty.
I do like throwing in under, say, scope of work, the line that you had put in at our meeting last week about,
I throw them out there, gems. You just record.
and it's written there.
Sure.
Written there in my scrappy little red pen, that additional treatments to meet the targeted
Objectives.
Yeah.
objective
Yeah.
are understood to be part of the part of the cost of the.
Right,
So
right.
while we're working, what I'm going to do, so we're going to move forward into the bylaw. While we're
Okay.
working, I'm going to think about exactly how I want that to sound. Type it up, email it to you when it's done.
Okay.
'Cause I can just,
Along with the photographic thing?
yes, although that I have to do on Google Earth.
Okay. And then you're gonna have to put a few things on our website, and then you'd have to get this out.
That's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just send them to Cindy, and Cindy puts them up. So that's just passing along an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you sent was okay for the insurance.
Yeah, I got thumbs up feedback.
Okay. Make sure, again, when I took this, I stole it from 2008. Make sure that the stuff you got thumbs up feedback on is the latest. Just in case it changed.
all the dates are changed in
I
there.
could just,
All the numbers are right. It's 1 and 2.
Oh.
It's 1 and 2 for aggregate. I wouldn't expect anything more than this.
if you send that down, I can take a quick look at that.
Well, all I would do is just throw away what I sent you and attach whatever went to them and go with that. Don't risk it.
Oh.
Don't risk missing one. Okay. Let's move on. So, does everyone have their meeting minutes printed out like I have from the last time that we met for this?
Actually, hold that thought for a second. Am I getting in touch with Jewish Tech anymore?
Say that one more time.
Am I getting in touch with Jewish Tech anymore?
I don't have any problem with you doing it. You're just going to make Jess have a heart attack. So, why don't you go ahead and find out if they will do it? We'll go ahead and forward this, and then we'll consider it for the next time around.
For January, we're gonna keep.
No,
No,
for the next time
Oh,
around next
next.
year.
next time.
I'm with
we
you.
do it, we-
In other words, it is a great idea. It's too late in the game. Move
Yeah.
forward. We'll figure it out after. Plus, we can ask these folks to break out the cost of what the GPS survey is. Oh. So if they break out what the cost of the GPS survey is, then we can compare that against any kind of number that we get from Geosyntec or another vendor.
That's a good idea.
Well, look at that. So,
I like that idea.
okay. George, did you print out your meeting minutes?
No.
Gosh darn it.
I didn't
So-
either.
I did not.
Did we get meeting minutes? Did we get meeting minutes?
No, these are from our special meeting.
I know, I'm just showing off.
Right.
So, I never print.
I haven't even had them posted yet.
That's the spirit.
We just-
So,
Just way
all I
ahead of
wanted
us,
to do was
though.
just go over, so during our first open meeting to discuss the bylaw, which was on the 14th, we determined that this would be our first special meeting. Our next special meeting is on January 17th, where we'll have our final changes to the template and then submit to the town council. So, I say that because as I was going through this, I was all prepared to be very upset with their standard bylaw and have all sorts of issues with it, and quite frankly, I think it's adorable. So there's very little to change about it. I made minor changes to mine, like taking out including coastal storm flowage, right?
Little
Huge.
Yeah, we don't
It's
need that.
huge.
Hey, no,
We don't-
really.
No, it's
Well, we
out.
could-
It's out.
In 20, 30 years.
Yeah, how long is
We
the
might.
bylaw gonna stay?
Yeah, I guess to be fair, but at that point there really won't be a state of Massachusetts anymore, so who cares?
That's true.
We will be in Vermont, I guess.
The archipelago of air.
That's
Northern-
right.
Northern
Ooh, we've got Snake Hill, Pingree Hill. So anyway,
Yeah, with bridges between them all, it'd be a great Peter Pan movie.
all right, we're gonna get lost in that. That actually sounds like fun. Okay, so I printed these out mostly so that I wouldn't forget to do stuff I was supposed to do. And I just wanted to remind everybody that tonight is the initial pass. If we have changes, questions, challenges, you will then go back to your separate corners, and we will discuss those again, potentially in a quick spot on our January 12th meeting, and then formalize all that on the 17th. Because on the 17th, we walk out the door on the 17th of January with a new bylaw to be sent to Copman and Page for review.
Okay. Quick question. Mary Spinner said something about a request for comments. She didn't have time to read. What
Start
was-
over.
So you guys gave me, as part of my homework, the permit and the review from other boards section,
Yeah.
and I gave them until today. From
Oh.
that meeting, I did it the day after, 2 days after,
A month ago.
Oh, so that was just just that one
and
section.
nobody has said anything to me who has returned their, and I think they're the only ones that didn't. No, that's not true, because I got it from Bridget, and Bridget didn't have any comment
A month ago.
3 weeks ago.
There you go. Anything else?
Nope, nope. So that was there was only that one section, and they were. And they
But
didn't-
Bridget
they
did
didn't-
that,
And they
so
didn't
that
get to
means
it
that-
anyway.
Theoretically,
Okay.
the local Board of Health
Okay.
did not see it, but the regional Board of Health did see it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because Mary Spinner said that was on their agenda, but they didn't get to it.
Oh, all right, well, there you go.
Oh, that.
Or in
Why
their
didn't you
packet.
start with that? Why didn't that?
That
Why wasn't that what you opened with?
falls
And I'm
into
like,
they had their
okay.
chance.
Just start playing Nicki Minaj music. All right.
Yes, and what I've given you here, I've given you my edits, my work in my corner. I've given you an unadulterated MAC bylaw. I've given you the Framingham bylaw, which I find very intriguing, just excerpts. And I've given you the Orleans bylaw.
So this is the original?
That's the
MAC?
unadulterated MACC with notes and everything.
All right, so these are your notes?
Those are my notes on my section.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm just going to go down.
Absolutely.
The list
just
of
so you
here,
know
okay?
what you've been given.
No, that's great. That is great. So actually, when I went through purpose, the only thing I added, I put in where it said town of, I put Ayer. I crossed out including coastal storm flowage. And then what I didn't like was it says, at the end of the first paragraph, it says, collectively the resource areas protected by this bylaw. And so at first I was trying to figure out if that was something that the MACC had added, because you know how they have their C Note 1, C Note 2.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to determine, that to me sounded like it should be its own sentence. So the end of the first paragraph of the purpose statement, it says, it ends up with saying, agriculture, aquaculture, and recreation values deemed important to the community, collectively the resource area values protected by this bylaw. And I thought to myself, well, doesn't that really say everything? Why is that in parentheses?
It's there because if at some further point they speak of or they utilize the term resource areas or resource values protected by this bylaw, you don't need to write the 3 or 4 lines preceding.
Well,
it's one of those.
No, I guess. I just almost wish it was like there was a dash and then it said collectively. I just didn't understand why it was in parentheses. It just seems like it's split out.
Sorry.
And it's really important. I didn't understand why it was split out that way.
It's a syntax question, not a purpose question.
Well, we're going to spend hours on that. That's how this board works. All right, so anyway, at that point I wrote in just 3 sentences. Ayer is a community with 7 ponds, several streams and brooks, 2 ACECs, and considerable wetlands inside just 9.575 square miles. It is important to every resident of Ayer that we conserve and protect our resources to maintain our clean water, healthy ponds, and rare species habitats. And again, even as I was writing it, I was thinking to myself, well, it's probably not actually appropriate for the bylaw. It's probably not going to be accepted by Copeland and Ripoff. And at the end of the day, it probably just makes more sense to include that as part of our discussion with residents when we say, and our bylaw presentation in front of the town, and say, here's the why.
Yeah.
So anyway, I put it in red letters in my stuff. I'm certainly prepared to take it out.
I sort of liked it.
I think it works, but it doesn't work as a bylaw. It works as an intro.
Well, I think that you can take your idea and with a little bit of a tweak, there's an idea that I put in when I did this initial piece, where the language I said was something to the effect of this bylaw is to be used to ensure that the values provided by resource areas and the ecological integrity shall be not so impacted, blah, blah, blah. The idea being to say it's not just about square footage, it's about function. It's about what a wetland is in a philosophical space as opposed to just like 5,000 square feet.
Oh yeah, no. In fact, I was jotting down notes when you get down into permits and conditions where they've got avoid, minimize, mitigate. I think we should all get that stamped on a tattoo on our arm, right? And they even went in, and this is stuff to be put right in the toolkit. If there's no practicable alternative, and no significant adverse impact. I was noticing that in here. I highlighted those. It made sense.
Yeah.
You must deny. In fact, it literally says, the idea is to not change the resource area.
Right.
And so I think, part of our last discussion was with regard to the application where, quite frankly, they were far too close to the wetland, but they were squeezing it in. They were doing the things they could do. My concern isn't with the construction of the project. My concern is with there being a house and people living there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if it wasn't a house and people living there, it was a path where people dumped their leaves and things, which really wasn't all that much better. However, at the end of the day, there was a certain amount of upland there that is lost. This actually goes into, giving us the ability to, make those restrictions and to speak to those things.
Is the purpose to include no build?
Through regulation.
Yeah, in regulation.
Right.
But
It states it in
a
here.
10,000 foot view.
Yeah, no.
Your purpose is protection of the resource values, habitat spaces, protection of water quality. Which of these are you going to put to the fore so that from a legal perspective, you can turn back and say, in our purpose, it says we want to protect ecological integrity, ergo, these regs are kosher. But if you just stick to sort of the resource area values as listed, then that changes, the legal footing.
Well, I think
And
that,
that's the concept, that's the gist.
so one of the things as I read through it is that actually, to our point from the other night and from our discussion, my biggest issue with saying to somebody after they've gone and filed with us
Right.
is that wasn't what we were telling them before they filed. There's a lot of cost that goes into that. So somebody goes to, that house that was on Groton Harvard Road, right? On that hill, on that horrible, horrible hill, okay? He's well upland of the area that he's going to impact unless he's not careful when he does his construction.
I have heard he's not going to do that.
I know he's not going to do it because now it's for sale by somebody else.
Seems to make sense.
I heard that from you, never mind.
You heard it from me.
My point is that all the things that we were worried about in those applications, all those things that we were talking about, they're covered in here. And I keep coming back to this, right? The last thing we want to do is put something in front of the attorneys that they haven't seen before and that they then have to go and dig into, and then we have to fight over those same words with them down the road.
Yeah.
If this is an MACC bylaw that works, and the only things that we change are things that are very specific to the town of Ayer, and there really aren't many. I went through all the sections I was supposed to, and I even read your section, George, because I knew you weren't gonna. But the point is that there's really so very, very little to change. We're smarter to go with the bylaw that's approvable, work it through the town, and then use regulation outside of the bylaw to, not put specific things in the bylaw.
Yeah, I agree.
It's, I'll tell you right now, it's another reason why, as much as I do like the idea of battling with people over how much fertilizer they put down, I'd much rather handle that as a regulation around the ponds,
Yeah, absolutely.
because that's where it matters the most.
Yeah.
Just because you've been mentioning the Jonathan Drive place.
Yeah.
And in terms of questioning what we did there, I was thinking about that in relation to a later passage in this that said.
Wait. Are you in the purpose?
No, I'm just because we just brought this up.
You're skipping ahead?
Under permits and conditions, just that the need to avoid a decision. I was wondering if this applied to what we just did on
Probably.
Jonathan. To avoid a decision that so restricts the use of the property as to constitute an unconstitutional taking without compensation.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the way that you handle that is with a regulation that says that there is a no-build area because you frankly can't use that space later in a way that's appropriate. You
Right.
just can't.
But reading that, I was thinking, but I think we couldn't have blocked them doing something with the property.
No,
Right.
they. So then the question becomes: so if you used a no build for the
Yeah.
purpose of saying this is just the area, it just has to be protected because once you get,
Yeah.
you've got to get outside of that area. That parcel would have been useless to them
Yeah.
unless they sold it to the neighbor who wanted to put a garage on the first 10 feet of it and not on the whole 40 or 50 or 60 feet that was
Right.
available.
Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Right.
And I mean, like zoning things do that all the time, which
Yeah.
would cover the same ground,
Yeah.
and I think we're okay. Like
Yeah.
you're right in that case.
Yeah.
I don't think that the rules and regs of a no build that would have prevented a new home going in
Yeah.
would have constituted take because the project would have seen the regs ahead of time
Yeah.
and not they wouldn't have been
Right.
snuck up
Yeah.
on. What we were talking about last meeting,
Yeah.
we're denying it after approving it.
After
Yeah,
discussing it and
that's-
saying,
That
yeah.
would have been
Totally, that's
yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Well, actually, it's not as obvious as you might think. It wasn't in the Bolton Conservation Commission. So, I guess what I would say about this, and what I think makes the most sense about what we're talking about here is, as we dig down into it, if it's up front, then it's up front.
Yeah.
And then, certainly people have gone to zoning boards and challenged the law and said, no, I don't think that's appropriate. And they've said, well, we're not going to grant you a variance, right? And they've sued them. And at the end of the day, what is a variance? A variance means that I walked in and I had no right to change the bylaw. I have no right to exceed the areas that are allowed.
Right.
Did you want to? Yes. Did you get a variance? No. Then you can't do it. The only other opportunity is to sue. This is the same thing. We have a no-build zone, and your property is 50 feet wide, and you want to put a 60-foot wide house on it.
Yeah.
Well, what about mitigation? I'm sorry, did you do everything you could to avoid alteration? No.
Yeah.
Did you minimize the alteration? No. It literally comes down to putting those in a standard and saying,
Yeah.
that's the standard. You walk down the standard. That's it.
So, in the spirit of moving to the next section,
Whoa.
is there any feeling that they want to add anything to the purpose? Bill obviously likes it. He tried to adjust it.
I did, and I don't think you
Didn't
should.
feel it. My
Actually,
my angle is that perhaps there's a space to put some kind of ecological integrity type language, but it's sort of covered in the sense that the values presented are wildlife habitat, rare species habitat, rare plant and animal species. It doesn't connect it all into a cohesive whole, but all those individual parts make up, in some sense, ecological integrity.
it is interesting because when I was typing up, I was thinking about open space, and Framingham's actually states explicitly and provide open space for passive recreation and education.
Framingham, the reason I gave you that is that in their bylaw, they say the buffer area, and then in the definitions, they make the buffer area 125 feet. And
They
then
also
within
have
that
a
range-
preamble, no net loss of wetlands policy.
Yeah.
There shall be, wow. And then they forget to put the word in. There shall be any net loss.
There shall be. Oh, boy.
The intention is there.
It's pretty funny.
Who edited this?
I didn't see that, and I was reading it.
What was amended at the 2005 annual town meeting, and knowing the townies in Framingham, they took out the word not.
But they define their resource areas in very intriguing ways. They have the scenic river zone as a no-build. They have important bird areas. They have et cetera, and they really kind of go a little hit crazy. But
I'll tell you a story later on about how crazy they are. Or were, anyway. I think the lady who was there is gone.
But it's an example of going beyond the state minimum that everybody else is sticking with. And if you were to be interested in a bigger buffer for a certain reason, there's a precedent setter.
Right.
Like maybe just like wildlife values you feel should be reviewed at 300 feet, or you feel that grass clipping should be reviewed at 250 feet. I don't know, but there's
Define what you mean by grass clipping should be reviewed at 250 feet.
I was coming up with a nonsensical.
You nailed it.
Anyway, just there's your precedent.
Well, it is interesting because they mentioned their important bird areas, wild and scenic portions of Sudbury River. We have several ACECs. The biggest concern, okay, is that there are actually huge blocks of town that should never have been built on ever, and there's no changing that.
No, that's not going anywhere.
No. And there's also no changing the fact that some of those people are going to want to modify their homes or do things to their houses. And so, one of the reasons that I think over the years, and it feels like it's been a really, really long time because it has been, is that we've become very pragmatic about, we would much rather have somebody come to us and talk to us about the driveway on Sandy Pond, right? I don't really want the driveway there in Sandy Pond, but it does have a curb, right? So there's no way for stormwater to wash straight down that driveway. Okay. Do I really want to put a driveway in next to Sandy Pond? No. But is he going to do something there next to his house one way or the other? He sure is. And so we become pretty pragmatic about trying to handle when people are doing additions and stuff. It's the new projects that we've tried to be as careful about as possible.
Right, and which, as we've just seen in our recent examples, we don't really have the legal basis to make a fuss about them.
Well, sadly, we have the legal basis, but in our case, the legal basis has been to run it back to the state, who then has all the tools to do all those things. And don't forget, up until just a few months ago, it was 19 hours a week. We didn't have the time to do those things.
Yeah, no.
Did you go by West Main?
Yeah, the excavator's just sitting there parked.
It's on open space.
Yeah.
Well, so hold on, Missy. Don't forget when you.
We're defining this. This is the purpose.
No, I know, but when you when you look at the reason for conservation commissions,
True.
open space was one of the two things that was right there.
Yeah, but
Historically.
historically,
So
but where,
perhaps
yeah.
rather the resource area values, open space is the resource area value we're protecting as opposed to the purpose of the bylaw.
Yeah, but our jurisdiction is actually, we're here to protect
Yeah.
wetland,
Whoa.
Yeah,
not
within the
open
footage.
space,
Actually,
right?
No, we can protect the open space within our
Within-
jurisdictional space.
True,
And so
true.
the wetland determines the jurisdiction.
The wetland defines the jurisdiction.
Right.
Jurisdiction doesn't.
well, we would say the wetland and water resources, because also
Yeah,
we are also supposed to do flood areas.
right.
So,
Right.
which we don't work very hard at.
And adjoining upland areas.
Adjoining upland areas and open space. Where was it? Wasn't that in the? Was it in the meeting I went to?
Provide space.
I mean, you're right about open
Mm.
space being included in the Conservation Commission Act.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. They read it. It was at the. It was when I went to the forestry one in
Oh, yeah.
Holyoke. Thank you.
Yeah.
I always have to sing it. Holyoke. It was when I went out to Holyoke. They had. They actually went through that.
Right.
Hmm.
And that was when I remembered them saying, hey, don't you have a bylaw in your town? There was some lady up there, she was all gung-ho, don't you have a bylaw in your town for open space? You know, because they were talking about forestry and such.
Right, right.
And I remember saying, wow, that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But is open space the purpose of the bylaw, or is open space a side effect of the bylaw?
Well, I guess that is a question. So one of the only things that I would say about it, and it made sense to me at the time, is we have conservation restrictions on parcels around town. And quite frankly, they're mentioned in here as one of the ways that people can work with us to get a
Mhm.
parcel approved. So look at Sandy Pond 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Sandy Pond 3 wouldn't have happened except that they did a conservation restriction so that the ACEC and Mass Heritage
Right.
would sign off.
And that is the protection of quite a lot
Right,
of non-jurisdictional space that in no way, shape, or form would ever have become jurisdictional had a project gone in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it would never have maintained, it never would have become open space to protect an upland area or protect an area around a wetland resource.
Mm.
I'll put it this way,
Okay.
it was, it's in
Yeah,
it's in the state's rules for why there's a conservation commission. I think it makes sense to mention it, and I don't think it hurts putting it in there. What do you think of it that way?
But for, no,
I put it at the end,
oh, I definitely want it in there, but at the very beginning though, I have a
Again,
little issue there.
it was the adjoining upland areas. That was what threw me, because I didn't want to put it before adjoining upland areas. So, makes sense. If this is to protect the wetlands, water resources, flood-prone areas, adjoining upland areas, and open space in the town of Ayer.
I like that.
Okay.
So adjoining upland areas and open space.
Comma, and open
And
space.
Open space.
And then, Brian, down in the fourth or fifth line, I took out, including coastal storm flowage.
Yeah, I deleted storm damage prevention, including.
Oh, no, I left storm damage prevention in there. Because we have had
Yeah.
several times when we've had flooded areas due to the, we have streams that go literally right through the downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Ask
Yep.
the flooded fire department.
Well, right, but there's
Yep.
flood control, erosion, and sedimentation control covered. You think storm damage and flood damage are distinct enough creatures?
I left it
It's
in
good
there
enough
because
for
they
the
really didn't,
MACC?
what's that?
If it's good enough for the MACC.
Yeah, it really
it's not a
didn't, it didn't
problem.
strike me as something that was a
Yeah.
bothersome thing. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I just figured it was like, it's storm damage prevention. I can't really argue with whether we want to prevent storm damage. Unless you're for storm damage, and then you're to come up with a reason for that.
No, that just kind of feels dicey to defend, or like, the resource area values, including but not limited to the following: erosion and sediment control, storm damage prevention,
Well, a
water
lot of people,
quality prevention.
one of the things we're going to definitely reference in our public meeting is Katrina.
Mhm. Yeah.
People don't appreciate the areas that they need until they need them.
Yeah.
You know, actually.
It's like all those Cliff Bars in my
Yeah.
house.
I think do people remember like the Abajona, like all the rivers, you know, around Andover?
In
like,
Winchester? Yeah.
Well, no, Andover,
Abajona goes through
Peabody,
Winchester.
Peabody, Winchester. We've had some pretty nasty storms that flooded a lot of downtown of North
Absolutely.
Andover.
How about that dam in Canton that almost overtopped a couple years back? Remember
Yeah,
that?
Yeah,
The dam
Yeah.
almost wiped out?
yeah,
No,
yeah. So it's
Vermont, was it Irene?
Yes. Oh my
Irene.
gosh.
Yeah, Irene.
So, and what was the one was it Irene? No, that was later, 2010. Was it 2010 or 2011? No, it was the big storm at the end of 2011. Was that Sandy?
That was Sandy.
Yeah.
No, 2011 was Irene.
Was it Irene? I got them flipped. Oh, yeah, right. Sandy was coastal. Irene went up through New.
Yeah.
So there were multiple bridges and other
Yeah.
areas wiped out. I
Yeah.
ended up in. We had a number of problem sites that we were working on where they lost everything, power and telephone, to entire areas for a period of time
Yeah.
because bridges and such got wiped
And
out.
nobody knew Vermont got hit that hard because Vermont was busy recovering for 2 days with no cell service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But since luckily there were only 3 cell phones in the town, it didn't matter.
All right, so first paragraph done. We'll leave the third.
That's one. Oh, did you put in Ayer where it said town of?
Uh-huh.
Out
Look-
there.
Okay. Jurisdiction, I believe this was Jorge. No, this was Bonnie and Takashi. And we even waited until after 7:30.
No adjustments to the home rule authority paragraph.
No, absolutely
All
not.
right,
No, I read through that one and it's so dry that it's clearly written by the attorney,
fair enough.
for the attorney.
I'm going to switch to the little caption so it says town of Ayer.
There you go.
All right, jurisdiction. I like the distance out of 100 feet. I'd like to keep that, but you know, remove beaches, dunes, estuaries, ocean.
So you took out, and land subject to title action.
Yeah, land, yeah.
So you
Freshwater,
remove
coastal
beaches,
wetlands.
dunes, estuaries, the ocean. What else did you remove?
All right, let's see.
Um,
So we'll just go through them. Except as permitted by the conservation, no person shall commence to remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, discharge into, or otherwise alter the following resource areas: any freshwater wetlands,
Mhm.
take out or coastal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Any freshwater wetlands,
Do we have marshes? No.
no. By definition,
We
we
have
need an
wet
ocean.
meadows.
We do have wet
We
meadows.
have bogs.
Yeah, swamps,
Swamps.
vernal pools, springs, banks, absolutely. We don't have any reservoirs.
Yeah, we don't have reservoirs.
Is there any plan for us to have a reservoir?
We just put in a brand new tank, so I'd guess no.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
They can edit that if that comes up.
Right. Well, let's face it, if reservoir becomes an issue in the future, I'm pretty positive we can capture it under other portions of the Act. Lakes, ponds of any size, beaches.
Nope. Dunes out.
So you want to
Hold
take
on,
out
hold on.
beaches?
Because beaches.
We have a beach.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have sandy beaches. Like think
Yeah.
of where the
Oh.
dock would go in at the
Yeah.
end of Kohler Place.
That's defined as a beach.
Well, by
Because
definition, I don't
by
know what else
definition, it's a
unless you want to
beach.
call it a sandy spot.
And that
Although
would
a
extend
smaller
the
one would be a son
jurisdictional
of a
place.
beach.
Yeah.
A son of a beach.
So,
Or a daughter. But that means we could treat that space as its own unique jurisdictional
Keep
space.
it in there.
Yeah.
Keep it in there. Yeah.
and I think we want to keep beaches in it because for no other reason than when do all those permits run out in those docks?
Probably another
Mm.
10 years. No, 9 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in 9 years, whoever is still on the commission with George is going to be sitting here dealing with all those people coming back to redo
Lucky
their
George.
permits.
So we can fairly assume we don't have any dunes.
We don't have dunes. We don't have estuaries.
No.
We do have estuaries, don't we? Because, like, for instance,
I
where
think-
Nottaquacious Brook hits the river, that would be the estuary. Do you have to have salt on fresh to be an
I think
estuary?
think
estuary
you
is
do.
salt.
All right, hold on. Do we have is
Yeah.
there
Oh,
a
you know,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
because
of
salt
a
defined.
delta. A delta can be freshwater,
So,
but an estuary.
Oh, I'm
right.
already connected to town.
Yeah, I think.
No, you're right. An estuary is a salty thing. A
Yeah.
delta is the thing I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The tidal mouth of a large river where the tide meets the stream. So you need tide.
Yeah.
coastal
Yeah, you
body
need
with
time.
brackish water.
Enough. I know what you're going.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're taking out dunes, estuaries. I'm gonna guess we'll take out ocean.
They can put it in if it comes,
Yeah, if it comes back, that will be, this bylaw will not be what you'll be worrying about.
So intermittent streams.
Well, hold on, and lands under water bodies.
We have
So we want to
those.
leave those.
Yes.
Yep, okay. Intermittent streams. Okay, so here's where it gets tricky.
Yes.
So intermittent streams, brooks and creeks, that is actually divergent from what we're doing now.
Right.
I even brought, and I didn't even know Taka should be skipping, I even brought my own map, mostly because my little thing at the beginning was 8 ponds, and did you know Lower Long Pond is not named on this map, and neither is Pine Meadow. So by definition, we only have 6 named ponds according to the USGS.
Lower Long Pond is a private property dam. I think it's all within the same property line. So
Well, once you have that dam there and it comes out, that actually just runs into that wetland there. It is a formed pond. Anyway, if it isn't a blue line, it wasn't a stream.
But jurisdiction, I mean, that's an old map.
Sure.
Right?
So there are maybe
Wetlands change.
This is the most recent one, and it's from 1988.
Well, that's pretty old. Yeah, okay.
there are 3 or 4
Wetlands?
places I can think of that would matter. One is, if you recall, the project that was on the Groton town line,
Mm-hmm.
where they came in and asked for a COC, the
Mhm.
place where they wanted to put in all the housing, and that project fell apart. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a intermittent stream
Mm-hmm.
up there.
Yep.
The section in the middle of downtown, coming off the hill behind
Yeah.
us here,
Yep.
Mhm.
there's an intermittent stream
I think
up that
that's-
way.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a spot over off of Pingree Way. I thought I saw that it looked like there was an intermittent stream running through that development.
There's another one right over here that comes under the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of places where
Mm-hmm.
water travels, and
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of those streams have been captured in culverts, et cetera, since that time. But
Mhm.
the main reason to do something like this is that, at the end of the day, those areas need to be protected
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's for the same reason that everything else needs to be protected,
Yeah.
which is if it isn't there,
Right.
where's the water going to go?
Right.
And
Right.
to Bill's point from earlier, that we're not necessarily looking to change the intermittent stream up in downtown. The houses are there, it's whatever. But that project on the steep hill, with those seeps running down,
Mm-hmm.
Right,
if those were classified as an intermittent stream, that's a
Mhm.
whole different ball of wax.
Right.
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 And now all of a sudden you're saying to those people,
Right. Right.
we're looking at a different way to deal with this.
Right.
All right, so
keep
we definitely want to keep
keeping
intermittent
that.
streams, brooks, and creeks. And so I do want to talk about just, if for no other reason than, as Brian brought it up, the town of Framingham has the 125-foot buffer.
under jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Not too
Well, no,
distant.
they in their jurisdiction
actually-
don't call out the distance. They call out the distance in their definition.
Well, they say, except as otherwise provided, any activity to be undertaken within the buffer zone as defined in 18.9.
Oh.
Right.
So then you come to 18.9.
Which I think you flipped over. Yeah. Bottom of the definitions should be there. No, not page 2.
No.
Definition.
Oh yeah, it is.
Where?
Bottom of page 7. 7 of 12.
Yeah, I was looking for the 18.9.
Yeah.
I
So
skipped
in
all that.
here-
I edited.
The area of land extending 125 feet horizontally outward from the boundary of any resource area as defined in this bylaw. I was looking at the section 2, which tells you what the 125-foot buffer zone definition is.
Well, that isn't the bylaw. The 2 pages that are right, that's the regulations.
Gotcha.
So all
Oh,
that
yeah, here it is.
detail-
Framingham Wetland Regulation. Gotcha.
So their bylaw only mentions 125 foot in the definition. It doesn't call it out in the jurisdiction the way this is doing.
They've also got a really interesting way of
Oh.
defining it when you read when they say, the first thing here, scattering sunlight and providing shade, thereby lowering water temperature within wetlands. It's an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
Not things you think about most of the time.
But
The
because
Conservation Commission shall begin with the presumption that buffer zones are best left in an undisturbed and natural state. What a great way to start our regulation. Okay. Does anybody have any strong thoughts on 125 feet?
Well,
Yes.
I
because-
have some, and they were mostly, so the piece of my work with the notes on the side, if you flip over, there's some science that I quoted on the sidebar to the effect of, depending on what you're trying to protect, you want to go further out. So like if you're just worried about preventing, say, phosphorus runoff, a 50-foot buffer should be fine, and a 100-foot buffer would be better. But if your concern becomes, say, the seven-toed sloth, it's going to have habitat needs of a certain sort. And so, I think the question of what is it that you're trying to accomplish as a commission, this is one place to address it. Because if you're worried about, say, the salamanders that have a habit of going beyond your space, they cross the line, and all of a sudden the developer can do whatever they want. And that's their breeding habitat, say, or their overwintering habitat, or, example X, Y, Z.
Well, so one of the only things that I think that I didn't see a lot of in here was ACEC.
Right.
And I think that we would be in a position to do something different in the ACEC areas. And so one of the things I did want to talk about tonight was where those places were and what we might do to note those specifically in our bylaw, because we had two. Not just
and
one.
This is the example, again, for Framingham. They never mentioned any of that stuff in their bylaw. They called that all out in their regs.
For the ACEC?
No, the important bird habitat and
Oh, yeah, okay.
wild and scenic and all these sub-genres of land.
Okay.
The,
Riverfront area, bordering land, yep, important bird and scenic. But that's where they're saying that the 125 is with the exception of.
the,
So, like, if you want to create a suite of rules that apply only to the ACEC, that falls under your power to make regs.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right,
And
let's.
I would actually say that in the 2005 failed bylaw, they included a huge section on ACEC.
We did because it was one of Patrick's big bugaboos. He was definitely
Right.
concerned about them.
So one might surmise that it would be better to
Well,
have regulations.
do you remember Mr. Lucchesi?
Oh, yeah.
That's why it failed.
Well, no, I'm not saying that this is why, but I think I remember.
I just don't want to read too much into it.
Oh, yeah.
You can read through that bylaw, and as soon as you get past the part written by Patrick Hughes, that's where Mr. Lucchesi came in.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement? They hated each other.
Yeah.
Probably still do.
Do you guys know you guys did that twice?
What?
They brought the wetlands bylaw to town meeting?
Twice?
Yeah, back to
Twice?
back.
Did we? I
Yeah.
don't remember the second time.
That's because it got boring and discussions petered out, and then it was tabled indefinitely.
Really?
Yeah.
After the first time?
Yeah,
I don't even remember the second time.
I was surprised about that.
Well, I think it was before you.
Yeah, it was way before me, but I came, that was my first town meeting, was for the.
Maybe you came for the second one.
Because what happened the first time was that, guys, we have a bylaw, did you know that?
Yeah, why didn't you do something with it?
And the second time, the language was introduced to revise the existing bylaw to,
Huh.
and then kosher, and then the discussion happened, and it went away. Anyway, it's
You should watch those films. Okay, so I guess I have different feelings about this. So on one hand, are there folks, let's do just by a very quick show of hands, anybody who's interested in going beyond 100 feet?
Within, I think it has to be defined for ACEC, not in general, because it's outside the mass regs.
But we are allowed to do that. You cannot do a bylaw legally unless you go beyond the state. The state is the floor, and a bylaw has to go in some way, shape, or form above the floor. Otherwise, it's a waste of everybody's time.
Well,
I think
this
we-
goes beyond the
No,
floor in
but
other
if we-
ways.
In other ways,
If we
true,
make it
yes.
more
Yes,
strict
the
though,
the regulations,
you know,
was the most valuable.
yeah. I'm just afraid that it's not gonna pass if we do 120 feet, we do no build zones, we do this, we do that, and it becomes like so many restrictions.
So
It
then
will-
perhaps
it
the
will
place
pass.
for this question is when we have half a dozen public people from X pond sitting in front of us, and we say, hey, how would you feel about this, and would you support that kind of thing in town meeting?
Well, one of the discussion points that we had over multiple periods is, and it keeps coming back, is there's very few places left to build. There's literally very few places left to build.
So do we define it new structures?
No.
Or do we
You
define
would
it-
leave it because so if someone tears a house down,
Right, they can
Right.
build again.
they can build if they don't remove their footprint of their foundation. They can do anything they want, but as soon as they start to excavate or do anything like that,
Yeah, outside the
then it's,
footprint.
right, then it's
Right.
back under the bylaw.
Right, right.
And in general, I think you would find that almost any work, so from a practical standpoint, if somebody had to, let's say that a house burned down, okay, in general, they're gonna end up digging around that foundation anyway, either to put drainage in or some of the new
Mhm.
things that are required by the code,
Mhm.
they're coming here. There's no way around it.
Mhm.
Every house that gets built in this town
Mhm.
that is jurisdictional will come before us.
Mhm.
So, that's not really a question so much. I guess I'm going back and forth on the 100 versus 125 feet. I think I would be comfortable putting in the 125 feet to say, and then discussing during the meeting to let people know that the reason that we're talking about a buffer that is 125 feet is basically that's the area we're concerned about. That's the area we're looking at. That doesn't mean that that's a no-build zone.
Right.
It's not a 125-foot no-build zone.
Right,
It's just that that's
Right.
the area that we're trying to protect in the area of the wetlands.
right.
And so that's where we're starting to look. And
Mhm.
very comfortable telling people we have lots of projects where people come in where their houses
Mhm.
are inside the buffer zone.
You know, the other
Mhm.
option too is we have a 200-foot riverfront corridor. You know, why? You know, like, why is the wetland corridor 100 feet smaller? Is it water, will it change somehow? What's the difference? And
Well-
we could make an easy argument that we want to be consistent, so we're not confusing anybody. We're just going to get 200 feet for review, doesn't mean we would change any op.
We're not doing that.
Right, but like,
Yeah,
you see
yeah.
what the idea is. It's a
The
melding of
rationale.
consistencies.
Well, I do see that to the extent that that it makes sense from a consistency argument, but you know, you have outer riparian and inner riparian, and the inner riparian is 100 feet, so there's your consistency. So be careful what you wish for. I would just simply say that if I was going to throw anything out there, I'd say 125 feet, and then we can discuss it during our public meetings.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Could we put in something here that just made a note of AC, there might be additional regulations with respect to ACECs?
Well, that brings up the next interesting
When we get
question.
into the regulations sub piece, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
define.
I guess the other interesting part
But
is,
jurisdiction should mention it, yeah.
well,
something.
shouldn't some of that just purely come out of the ACEC?
Shouldn't we?
So think of it this way.
Mhm.
When something happens in the ACEC, where do those people go? Natural heritage.
Yeah.
So there's already a more stringent system. However, I do like the idea of including in our bylaw that the reason for an ACEC is it's an area of critical environmental concern. And if I remember correctly, the majority reason for the ACECs here was animals.
Mhm.
It's wildlife. So that does formulate some of your regulations inside of an ACEC.
Mhm.
So do you want to mention an ACEC in the bylaw, or?
I don't know if you even need to.
No, well, the thing actually that's, from my perspective, that I've come across, ACECs, you are not allowed to destroy wetlands. There's no provision for that. But where the Rosewood extension comes in, right, that's the James Brook watershed. The ACEC is drawn down the north half of the watershed. And so the northern half of James Brook, no wetland destruction allowed. The sort of southern drainage of
Mhm.
James Brook allows for wetland destruction. And, you know, the lines were drawn for one reason or another. But I think perhaps James Brook ought to be regulated as if it were, you know, the ACEC, because otherwise you end up with, what is it, Minneapolis, the Twin Cities?
Mm.
You know, same place, different, you know, it's they're facing each other, but different rules. Or like, what's the place across the street from Detroit where they put the casino?
Canada. So
James Brook has a 200-foot.
Right, but like to treat it as,
Yeah.
say,
No
the
disturbance.
James Brook shall be regulated according to the rules that apply to the ACC on the other side, then you would actually create a space where any wetland replication would be disallowed, because the wetland destruction would be disallowed. So an example in this case would have been to say they couldn't have built the culvert, they would have had to have built the bridge. Is what, you know, effectively would end up meaning, you know, without going, and then you'd have exceptions and getting into all that business of
Mhm.
constitutional take or not. But
Mhm.
that's what's already
Yeah,
going on in the
yeah.
ACECs, and so I don't know what we would have in terms of,
I think if it's not defined though as an ACEC, it's hard to be hard to.
Right. But my point
uphold
is,
that.
I don't know, without going beyond the jurisdiction mentioned of 125 or 200 feet, you're already disallowing all wetland destruction in ACECs at the state level. So what more are we going to do?
Well, so you're saying don't mention the ACEC because it's more stringent?
Yeah, more or less. You know, maybe some of the construction rules and regs we could tighten up in an ACEC, but the wetland rules and regs are already stronger, and we can't make anything stronger than you can't touch it.
I guess I'm uncomfortable with taking an area next to an ACEC and making it ACEC-like.
Right.
But I have no problem, bringing out the idea of 125 feet as being the area that we're concerned with,
Right.
as opposed to, as saying, it's 125 foot, it's not a no-build zone, it's an area of concern. That's how we figure out what your
about
impact is.
The 200 foot, would you extend that by 25 feet, or would you keep it at 200?
No, I would leave that because the state passed that. The Riverfront Act was back in 1996, and I wouldn't touch that at all. That's a state act,
As opposed to the Wetland Protection Act,
which was passed in the 1950s, as opposed to
Yeah.
this one was passed in 1996. And
That's still pretty old. It's 20 years.
well, if I was dating it, I can tell you it would be just fine. But the point is that they went to great lengths.
Yeah.
They went to great lengths to come up with the inner and outer riparian and all that. And
Yeah.
I don't know that you can really improve on it. And quite frankly, we have a river,
Nashua?
Two.
We have the Nashua.
we have the Nashua, and then we have Bennett's Brook.
Bennett's and
Bennett's Brook,
James.
non-aquacious.
non-aquacious.
Bennett's Brook is a little more riverine than non-aquacious.
Yeah.
Non-aquacious is like a connected swamps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except in the area where man shaped it with its roadways.
Mm.
There it looks rivery.
Yeah, it does look a little rivery
Yeah.
there.
But
Yeah.
but to follow on your ACEC, I mean, the 125-foot buffer under this definition kind of includes, it's bordering land, subject to flooding, important bird areas, estimated habitat for rare and wetlands wildlife, which is sort of
Where are you reading that?
this is under, this is Framingham.
Oh.
Wild and scenic portions of the.
So we were just talking about
national-
that, but this is their, what you're reading is their regulation, not their bylaw.
Oh, this is their,
Yeah, it was confusing. So the
Right.
first page and the second page are bylaw.
but the,
The
and
third
the
page is
section 2
regulation.
is red.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And again, that's something we can take up afterwards.
But if you put 120 foot in the bylaw, right, change the 100 to 120 feet, you have to define it somehow. You have to describe why you've changed it
Well,
to 125, right?
no, all we're simply saying is that we've decided that 125 feet is better than 100 feet for
Because-
determining,
Well, then I think that becomes part of your presentation.
becomes part of your whole other argument, which
Yeah.
is this is what's necessary to protect our ponds and our streams
Okay.
and our resources here in town.
Uh-huh.
That, 100 feet is just not enough when you start to put houses and lawns and other things into those areas.
So it won't become part of the reg. It'll just.
No, it becomes part of the bylaw.
the bylaw.
The bylaw. And then after that, you then further define what that means through the regulation.
Yeah, like
Okay.
what
If you
the
say-
Framingham did with the rivers and the birds and et cetera.
Okay, all right,
Right.
define it like that, okay.
So one jurisdictional sentence to just throw out there and see how this goes. Let's take our example of like a seven-toed salamander, right? And we found it. It's in our jurisdictional space. The project is impacting it. If the salamander goes for a walk to 225 feet, to 350 feet, to 1,000 feet, and you're trying to protect it within jurisdiction, would you want to say in the space, let's say something like the resource area values protected by this bylaw, should they exist within our jurisdiction, we will protect them, in the entirety of their usage of the space, or I don't know, something crazy. But is that the kind of concept that you would want to include and kick around?
How do you define that, though?
So
You would define it probably through peer review, but in a simpler sense, let's say we find a creature and its habitat generally speaking, is the literature says they go 300 feet from the water body they're using to their den and their burrow, and then sometimes they wander around another 30 feet going looking for food. So then we say, all right, we just found your salamander on this project based on this resource area value that has extended our jurisdiction. We now are jurisdictional to X.
We're relying on the applicant to tell us that that creature is there.
Well, it would have to come up in like the
You know what's gonna
NHESP
happen.
review.
Oh, yeah,
or
no,
something like that.
right, or, now it does say in here, it mentions a wildlife study, that you can require a wildlife study.
Right.
I don't have any problem with that on a big project. I think the problem you run into on that is that, let's say that somebody wants to put an addition on the back of their house on Flanagan's Pond. There is no way to do anything in that area without impacting the upland area. Literally no way.
Well, right, and as you were saying, it's not as if we're going to say no to the project, but this would extend the bubble under which, things would get looked at with a little bit more of a...
I think the hard part about that is that so all of a sudden you say to somebody that that's how it's going to be, so they go out and they make sure all those things are gone from their property before they fought.
Yep.
You effectively iced
Yeah.
the wetland, the animals,
Yeah.
with the simple fact that if they exist, they're a problem. Did you watch the Pelican Brief?
But, here's the big but. It's not saying that's going to stop the project. It's not saying it's going to do this. It's just saying there's going to be a temporary bubble increasing the space in which we want to have a look at what's going on.
I don't know that people are going to make that distinction.
It's okay.
I don't think that, no, it isn't okay,
No,
because
I
that
mean,
will
it's
cause
not
them to
like-
vote no.
No, I'm just throwing the bone out.
Yeah.
It is a tricky concept. It is a hard...
I think it's way far beyond
It's- yeah, I think
anything that
it's-
we can comprehend or take on.
Fair enough.
I think you get a lot.
Where are you getting these from?
Ecology.
So, I don't think that there's any way that you can sell that. So when we met with the ACEC people,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the things that they talked about, and they were pretty adamant about how they manage those areas. That's great. We have areas that are protected by the state for those things. I don't think we can mimic that throughout the entire rest of the area.
Fair enough. So then, jurisdiction, are we good?
But yeah,
I
yes.
have one. Reading has a little thing in their bylaw that says jurisdiction includes activities on lands outside the buffer zone if likely to alter impact on an area subject to jurisdiction.
Well, that's interesting.
So
So
that's-
wasn't there
There's
one
that
in here
bubble
about
idea.
upland?
It's a different kind of bubble, but
Yeah.
that's in Reading's bylaw, so somewhere it's.
I thought there was already something like that. Hold on a second. Where did I read it? In the beginning, they talked about upland. Oh, well, also in here, they talked about, so, it's actually right here. Except as permitted, so I'll skip over the middle part. Except as permitted, you may not remove, fill, dredge, or build upon these areas. And it's freshwater, wetlands, meadows, etc., blah, 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 land adjoining, subject to flooding, period. Said resource areas shall be protected whether or not they border surface waters. But that only protects surface waters. Read the, what does Reading have again?
Jurisdiction includes activities on lands outside the buffer zone if likely to alter or impact an area subject to jurisdiction. So if you're,
What does that mean, though?
well, if you're doing
Uplands.
something way up and you're changing flow or whatever that's going to come down into
Okay.
a jurisdictional area,
Okay,
technically they're
okay.
outside 100 feet or 200 feet, but
Right.
what they're doing
Right,
is,
it's gonna impact.
right.
All right. You know what? Put that in, please, because I do like that.
Yeah.
If for no other reason than it brings up something that we have talked about in the past, which is, so one of the things that I'm concerned about is that if you mention that the main reason that you're saying that you want to expand your bubble is an animal, that's trickier than simply saying that you have a hill and you're 200 feet away from where the wetland is, but anything you do up here is absolutely going to affect the wetland. It is now jurisdictional in our purview,
Okay.
because that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's geography.
Yeah, that makes
I would
sense.
say on here, streams, flooding, collectively the resource, and I would just do it as its own sentence. Collectively, the resource area is protected by this bylaw. Then new sentence, jurisdiction includes activities on lands outside the buffer zone if likely to impact an area subject to jurisdiction.
Yep.
And then,
That's good.
Jurisdiction includes activities on lands outside the buffer zone if likely to impact.
an area subject to jurisdiction. Well, that's how they worded it, but
An area subject. An area subject.
I like it.
Jurisdiction.
All right, well, Brian is doing that, so
at the end.
that's everybody good with that?
Yep.
oh, an area subject to protection they've had, sorry.
Yeah, jurisdiction twice
Yeah,
a month.
if likely to alter an area subject to protection.
Now, I'm sure George was counting we wouldn't get to section 3 exemptions and exceptions because he's been here for a long time.
It's 8:30.
It's 8:30.
Oh.
So I read through this and I didn't see anything. What did you find?
Second paragraph, the,
Oh, I'm sorry. And Brian, were you done typing?
Yeah.
I was just getting started as we went to the next one.
No, you're right, yeah.
second paragraph, first sentence. Applications and permits required by this bylaw shall not be required for maintaining, repairing, or replacing, but not substantially changing or enlarging existing, blah, blah, blah. Facility used in service, electric, gas, water, telephone, telegraph, or other telecommunications.
We should end that. I know who those people are.
Yeah. What about sewer?
That's interesting.
Hmm.
I wonder why they didn't put that in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's stinky. Okay, so I agree. We could add sewer before electric. That's good thinking. So right. So what do
about
we?
after water? It would be electric, gas, water, sewer, telephone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's true.
sewer.
The sewer refer only to sanitary or also stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an interesting question, huh? There is no. I think it's only sanitary, stormwater, because you've got roof water, stormwater.
So should I type in sanitary sewer?
Maybe it should be sewer, comma, stormwater. So then the question becomes: do you say?
No, because you want to be there when they replace the stormwater system. I think you want to. have
Well, this
that
says if it's not substantially changing or enlarging. So in other words, what they're doing here is they're saying that if they want to put a new water line in, they don't have to come back to you every single time to put a new water line in.
Mm-hmm.
To replace the water
To replace a water line
Mm-hmm.
in the same place.
in the same place. Because we've run into this before where they were actually down the street from Christine's house. They were digging to fix a sewer line that actually runs through the intermittent stream we were talking about. And it runs right out of the houses and runs to within 3 feet of the intermittent stream and then cuts over to the road. And the tree had grown through it and it was not working. It had never been working because the tree had been there for a long time and the sewer pipe was long gone. In fact, there were just pieces of pipe left. And that's why it had clogged up and was causing trouble.
We could switch it around a little bit, so we stay with this idea, and at the tail end of this paragraph, say something like, "The Commission reserves the right to deem, that there's enough of a change."
Well, it says not substantially changing or enlarging. So,
So what's the process by which a disagreement would happen? That it is a substantial change or enlargement, you know.
No, I was just thinking the exact same thing. So at what point do you say,
Well, that's what 90 days for.
but that means they have to come to us, they have to decide on their own that they weren't substantially changing? Because otherwise they can sit there and say, well, we didn't think we were substantially changing, that's why we didn't come to you.
Well, right, and
Well,
that's in there.
Right, down here says, provided a written notice has been given.
Provide, yeah.
So they'd have to notify us anyway, then we could say,
Oh.
we disagree.
There you go.
Yeah, something to the effect of.
So it's already there.
Well,
So-
it says,
Yeah.
provided the written notice has been given, and provided the work conforms to performance standards, design specs, and the regs, period, and then it ends. And I'm saying we should put another sentence that says, should the commission disagree with the initial assessment, the appropriate form shall be filled out.
Well, I think that's implied, right?
Yeah.
By saying
It
the
might be.
applications are not required, applications and permits under this bylaw are not required if you do these things, provided you've provided written notice to the Conservation Commission prior to commencement of work.
Yeah.
That's our place right there to step up and say, hold on a sec, this is substantial.
And why didn't you give us written notice?
Well, in fact, interestingly in here, they do the emergency projects, which of course is also under the state bylaw.
I mean, if you guys feel comfortable with the review saying that, you know, the applicant will do what they're asked. Because
Well-
actually, no, you know what? Because you're right. It doesn't matter what they do, because if there's an issue where we disagree, we just issue up an EO or a violation.
Say stop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Well-
then it becomes resolved.
There's only really, so when you look at that, right, you're talking about the DPW and the phone company
Mhm.
and the electrical company, okay? So we know that in town, the DPW is the DPW. That's, you know, they're not trying to burden themselves or us, and they've worked with us very well, and I'm sure they will in the future. The DPW is the DPW. There has to be electricity, there has to be gas, there has to be water, there has to be sewer.
Yeah.
The power company, on their own power lines, loves to send us the letter every year that says, we're doing whatever we want to, and we know you can't stop us. Okay? Telephone company doesn't act that way. The telephone company seems to be much more about, if we have to come in to, you know, put a pole in, we'll come in to put a pole in. We don't seem to have any bother
Yeah.
with it.
No, it's all.
And Verizon, this town, if I remember correctly, is a Verizon pole set. So each town that you go in, it's either the power company or the telephone company's the pole set. They put the poles in and then the other company jumps on them.
Mhm.
So in this case, it's Verizon.
But also, this ends with, provided that work conforms to any performance standards and
Mm-hmm.
et cetera in regulations.
In regulations adopted by the commission.
Yeah.
So we need to have another level.
So
of
then,
what
should
do you
we basically, since we're going to essentially be saving the town money on coming to us with fees and
Well, they don't have to pay them anyway.
well,
They
the
don't.
legal fees. They have
Oh.
to pay the paper.
Oh.
So it should be gas, water, sewer, stormwater management as a public service.
Well, so that's where I think so one of the things that we were talking about, so it says, used in the service of the public. So the only thing that I'm concerned about here is if you put in stormwater service in the service of the public is,
Is a gutter.
just
yeah.
feels more wide open.
Well,
But it's also
Yeah.
the same thing, like if they're gonna do a minor modification, repair, or replacement of the exact same thing, you know, it sort of falls into the same vein as water and sewer.
Right, it's not a new
Moving.
stormwater. I don't have any problem with that. You?
wait, doing what? Are we including it?
Adding stormwater after sewer because it is separate from sewer, and as long as it's not substantially changing or enlarging, they're replacing a collapsed pipe.
I remember all the times Calvin Morris complained about, never had a problem with water in my property until I did that stormwater trench. Yeah, so, yeah,
Well, maybe that trench is significantly different.
yeah.
All right, so let's put in after sewer, let's put it in before telephone. Let's put in stormwater.
Stormwater, stormwater management is
I just put
providing
sewer.
stormwater isn't. Nobody wants stormwater provided to them as a public service.
Oh.
Well, no one wants sewer provided to them as a public service either.
Fair point.
I would say stormwater management.
And And then how would you phrase sewer so it sounds appealing?
Just sewer. Just sewer.
I don't know that it's ever going to be appealing, is it?
Let's see, sewerage.
Sewerage.
AGE.
How about
Sewerage.
that?
Good word.
Is
You
that a
just
word?
got,
Yeah.
that's a lot of points in
Sewerage?
Scrabble.
Wow.
Sewerage.
Edge.
Sewerage.
AGE.
AGE.
Not sewerish. Sewerage. Is that sewer-ish? I don't know. You should probably throw those shoes away.
Sewer-ish is the kind of
Yeah.
word that you end up with when Bill's on a roll.
Yeah. Sewerage.
Sewer-ish. Sewer-ish. All right, George, what else you got for us? That was a good one.
Sudbury has a paragraph that says, "The application and permit required by this bylaw shall not be required for maintaining, repairing, replacing, or enlarging an existing and lawfully located single-family residential structure or appurtenance thereto, unless such filing is otherwise required by state or federal law."
Interesting. You see that?
Not substantially changing. I don't think I can get behind that one, only because so much of the housing here, a lot of the projects that we've seen just in the time I've been here, have been individual people coming in, like the guy with the driveway right next to that drainage ditch. You know, if he read that, he might go, "Oh, yeah, I'm not really changing it. I'm just putting in a driveway."
Well, no, that's
No.
actually, that would be the least of my worries. What I don't like is the fact that it says maintaining, repairing is fine, but then it says replacing or enlarging
Yeah.
an existing and lawfully located. Lawfully how?
I
So if it's outside of the buffer zone, then it's non-jurisdictional and that doesn't matter. But if it's inside the buffer zone, then it isn't a lawfully located addition.
I think something to the
understand
effect
that.
of as long as the
It
footprint
would
didn't
require
change.
permitting of the state anyway, so it would be, have jurisdiction under the bylaw too, wouldn't it?
It would. I guess I just don't understand the point of the sentence, unless the idea of the sentence was that people in Sudbury can tear down a house and build a new one that's even bigger than the old one.
I think that opens up a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been to Sudbury.
I mean, I think there is a value in that, in the sense of, you know, people who are just double checking if they're gonna say, like, I don't know, repair their windows or something like that, but hopefully they'll come in and talk to me and I'll say, "No, what you're doing, you're not changing the footprint, you're not moving any earth, you know, you're fine, you know, this is, you know, a property management issue rather than a wetlands issue."
Yeah, no, sure. I guess I can't believe Sudbury allowed the word enlarging and replacing an existing and lawfully located home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is,
That's just weird.
No.
Flacco gets sacked for 10 yards, so they just had to punt. So it's...
Huh.
Shh.
I've got it
Well, we
recorded.
could, you know what we could put in is, in the regulations, when we get to that point, we could add a lot of sort of soft touch language that, like, if you're a single family homeowner, you know, we'll waive your fees, or we'll, you know, we can do this all sort of in a very, like, I could essentially do all the work and then do the paperwork for you, and then, I mean, we could do, because the idea, I'm assuming what you're getting after, is people that don't really need to be here, they don't have the time for it, they've got things to do, and, you know, us getting off their back.
Okay.
Well, hold on a second. So what did you think? Did you think there was merit to that?
Well, not necessarily about the enlargement part, but just if they're gonna do work on an existing single-family house, which is basically a previously disturbed area,
Sure.
you know, then there might be some benefit to exempting that.
So I guess I would fall back to the example, but a different example than what Brian gave, which is the driveway, the second driveway, not the first driveway that went into Sandy Pond, but the driveway for the fellow who
Yeah, last
wanted
week.
to put, yeah, wanted to put it. Sorry, they were both there in the same meeting. I thought you meant the Sandy Pond one, but
Yeah, no, I was talking about the newer version.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure I'm ready to to make that only because then we have no way to talk to that person before they do the project.
Yeah,
So
I'd
We
agree.
need some checks and balances.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I'm blown away that that's Sudbury's bylaw. Blown away. I know Sudbury, it's not Natick, but, you know, it's definitely, they're definitely
Yeah.
hardcore in Sudbury.
I mean, the only thing that could be used for, in my mind, as I'm envisioning why that works, is if you got paved over or patioed over for some kind of already hardened ground, and you just like want to put in a big family room or something, and so you're not impacting the ground, but you are like blowing out onto a hardened surface somehow,
Well, are you gonna dig? Are you gonna move stuff?
right? And if you're not, maybe it's no big thing.
Well, unless your pre-existing condition was a foundation, and you just happen to build a house on top of it, which is highly irregular.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like a tiny house thing.
The only other thing I can think of is that
Sudbury?
that's there to
Probably
help
not.
somebody who has had a fire, you know, and they put something on the existing property or something. But even that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and Sudbury, you know, is a little more built out.
With McMansions.
Yeah. You
What
know, if we did something like that around here, the vultures.
I just can't even. It just doesn't. Wow, just really strange. Anyway,
What about limited projects?
aren't they already covered by the state?
Well, that's what I'm thinking for the last sentence. Other than stated by this bylaw, exceptions provided in the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations shall not apply to this bylaw. So I mean, we have to review all limited projects now.
Well,
When was the last time we had a limited project?
I can contrast Mark
Sewer
Wetzel.
borings.
I guess that's true. Trying to think of who did them.
There's one up somewhere towards Devon somewhere.
Hmm.
I have a question in here.
Wait, we're not done
Well,
with
hold on.
limited projects.
I don't know that I don't know that I have
Oh,
a
I thought
problem
we
with
were.
that line.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
Do we
so,
want to maybe somehow list?
You can do it in the regulation. List out what ones are exempt.
You got all sorts of rumors.
I know.
Should we say that here, you know, other than, you know,
Other than stated in this bylaw and attached regulations.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So what George was talking about was was limited projects like soil borings, etc. that we could in the regulations. It might be smarter to do that in a regulation anyway, because let's say that we said that something was a limited project and we were okay with it, and then we found that that wasn't working for us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, one of the things that I really definitely want to focus on as we go forward will be if you're required to put in, you know, stones or a boundary, you know, that area, I really want it to be marked with the orange snow fence while you're doing the building, and then the snow fence is replaced by the posts on the rocks or whatever. I don't want there to be a period of time when someone moves into the house and says, oh, yeah, that's my backyard. No,
Mhm.
that ends right there.
That comes up a lot.
It does come up. Well, it's one of those things that I'd really like us to learn from, because it keeps being a problem. So at some point we need to stop letting it be a problem. So here's a perfect example. So other than stated in this bylaw and attached and regulations, the exceptions provided in the Wetlands Protection Act and regulations shall not apply under this bylaw.
Yeah. Start with a blanket statement and start carving out exceptions rather than starting with an accepted.
Right.
yeah. So, and I don't know how if this applies, but,
So hold on. Do you want to add that in? So do you want to add in other than stated in this bylaw and town regulations? So add and town regulations. Make sense?
Which town?
Regulations.
Just
What's
the
a town
whole
regulation?
town of Ayer?
Well, do I want to say and our regulations? How else would you say our regulations?
And the regulations of the Air Conservation Commission.
There you go.
Yeah.
yeah. Is that saying the same thing? Because Mark Wetzel brought up limited projects and suggesting we do that. Reading has that. But North Reading says the limited project status granted under 310 CMR 1053E3 is not recognized under the North Reading General Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Well, and maybe that makes sense to do exactly what we're saying, is to put that in the regulation to say
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything but this or everything but that. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
sure
then
there's
it
a
gives
good
you
reason.
room to evolve without going
Yeah.
through the town meeting bylaw
Yeah.
process.
Mhm.
Right.
'Cause, you know, there are good ideas and, you know, good
Yeah.
examples for all these things. We don't wanna, you know, the advice that Eugene had and, you know, the lesson learned from the past
Yeah.
in-town experience, you know, less is more. You know, all
Yeah.
the weeds, we can grow them later.
No, and you know, as we were going through this, you know, one of the things that really struck me was really don't want to put a lot into this. Right? This is the standard language that gets it started.
Right, right.
And again, I can't help but say it every single time. Everything we add in here then has to be argued about,
Yeah.
Exactly.
literally.
Right.
Okay. Let's do jurisdiction, if we're good with, applications and fees, excuse me.
Oh, I just have one more question about exemptions. Do we have any agricultural land that borders
We
a
may
wetland?
not in a week or two. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think we did.
Are we done? Are we done with that? Done
Oh,
with
the
agricultural land?
Aliades?
Alides,
Currently,
Alides,
in
Alides.
future
Up on the
tense,
hill?
I think
Yeah.
it's a thing to
Around
worry
the
about.
hospital.
Hospital?
is that agricultural land behind the hospital?
Didn't we get into that when they wanted to expand the hospital?
Hello? What?
They wanted to expand the hospital. So,
Yeah.
so
But there's ag land up by the hospital?
Is it?
But was it
defined
ag land
as
or was it-
agricultural land?
Oh, you guys are giving me
Might
a
be
clue
defined
that I've been
as
hunting for.
agricultural land.
I don't remember what was it. I'm trying to go back to what. So we met with them. They used it to leave material, right? Remember they used it to place material when they were digging. They did a small addition on the front of the hospital. They originally wanted to do a whole big addition, and for whatever reason they canceled it. I think because it was 2009 and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
I remember a little bit about what you're talking about, but I'm not sure that field.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So
Have
the
you something
reason
worth-
this is relevant for me, that I'm listening very closely, in my hunting in the town reports, the Conservation Commission wanted to make the goat pasture a bird sanctuary in like 1973. And then the goat pasture was up near the Groton town line. And where the Ayer dump ended up being was the old poor farm. And that's close enough to the hospital, and that's open enough space. And you know, one idea that we kicked around was that there was a pasture associated with the poor farm. And if that's ag land in some kind of official sense, then that could be the goat pasture that I was looking for. And if it's not, you know, zeroing in a little bit, it's
Well, that's on the
place.
Groton line. It doesn't get much closer than that.
And there's no talk of ag lands anywhere else along the Groton line. So that's a clue in one of my.
Well, don't forget. So you said it was what, 1973? So between the hospital, there's a neighborhood there now, but that neighborhood went in 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
could have been that space. That's right on the Groton line.
Uh,
So depending on how on the Groton line the discussion was,
Mm-hmm.
could be that whole
It
area.
was a very poorly. It was like a throwaway sentence in an annual report.
You do remember how they used to do stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
It said, oh, by the way, turn at the big oak tree, not the small oak tree, the oak tree, the big one. So
All right.
they weren't always careful.
But the reason this
Right.
matters is that the Conservation Commission likely wouldn't have been doing work on land that they didn't have some responsibility, jurisdiction, you know, ownership of.
Mhm.
And, you know, so it's like, oh, I wonder if we own or manage land up near the hospital and we don't know about that.
I was astounded by the list you came up with the first time. So I'm very much excited to dig into that once we've gotten through all this, because
Anyway, so
that's its own big
thank you for the clue.
task.
Yes, so going back to the reason why I brought this up is that many times agricultural land, if it's being maintained and kept as agricultural land, they're exempt.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
So I didn't-
Well, and there's a lot in here
I
about
didn't know
that.
If there
Right.
were any
Oh,
parcels.
And you
like that
reminded
were-
me, I do have a question. In that larger paragraph, it says, provided that within 21 days of commencement of emergency project, da-da-da-da. Can we please specify calendar or business days throughout this document?
I think everything should be.
Calendar.
Working 21
calendar
Working
day.
days?
Calendar.
I do like
for
calendar better than
that.
business.
Just so long that we specify.
Yeah.
Yeah, calendar days.
Yeah, because we wouldn't want it to go,
Long
3 weeks
enough
is long enough
definition.
for them
No.
to have gotten their paperwork.
All days referenced in the bylaw are calendar days.
So we're counting Saturdays and Sundays and holidays.
Yeah.
I think it just makes more sense. I'd rather someone says 7 days than 5 days, and it's 5 business days versus 7. That's just irritating.
Thank you.
Do we have any other changes or additions to exemptions?
No.
Do you have any exemptions to what was in there?
If
All
you
right.
do see a spot though where you think business days is more appropriate, let's make sure to specify that there's somewhere you think is more appropriate for that.
Mhm.
Well, the only thing that I would see that being possible is like if you said someone had to respond back within 3 business days for an issue that they had on a property, because it doesn't make sense if the 3rd day ends up on a Saturday.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Well, if
Because the
we-
3rd business day that way would be Monday, so that's as good as it's going to get. Okay, beautiful. So we are through
up to
part
4.
3. We are in 4.
Cranking. This is halfway through the document.
All right, we are
Page
moving
2.
with speed now before the real slow down. Okay. So next is applications and fees. Why is that in this one and not in this one?
Oh, because Brian just has a shorter version that is only the sections he was
Yes.
responsible for.
No, this one. Oh, here it is, because it's on the second page that I didn't turn to. You printed on both sides, that's why.
That silly tree.
That's just crazy. All right.
I didn't have much to change here. The only thing going down to the 4th paragraph is the question of whether we want to charge a filing fee in addition to the one they already pay based on the Wetlands Protection Act.
Charge a filing fee?
Well,
Local
it says,
filing
at the
fees.
time of an application, the applicant shall pay a filing fee specified in regulations of the commission. The fee is in addition to that required by the Wetlands Protection Act, say for NLA. So that would be a change. That would be, we'd be adding on.
So what would the fee be for?
You know, a lot of well, I'm not saying we should do this. I'm questioning whether we should stick with that wording of the state. But some towns do get additional money that way, right?
I think the language should be kept, and then maybe there's a comma, and as outlined in the fee schedule in the regulations. And for the moment, we can have it as a big fat 0.
Yeah.
Or we could determine that you have to be putting in, you have to be working on at least 3 acres of land before we add fees on. You have to be dealing with a multifamily housing unit before we can come up with a.
Yeah.
Well, so part of this here, so think about this. So as you read the next part of it, it says the fee is in addition to that required by the Wetlands Protection Act regulations pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53G, and regulations promulgated by the Commission. The Commission may impose reasonable fees upon applicants for the purpose of securing outside consultants. Okay. That language has me uncomfortable only because the words reasonable fee sounds like we're going to charge you to charge you. Whereas
Yeah.
under the consultant bylaw, you pay for a consultant who is a third party, whether that is any of the ones they're talking about, an engineer, a wetland scientist, wildlife biologist. We're not making money or charging you money for you to hire someone.
Right.
You're just paying for that someone.
Right, exactly.
That's all in the
Yeah.
next paragraph.
Well,
Yeah.
I understand it says maybe possibly the town front, create a specific purpose. Additional consultant fees may be requested where the requisite review is more expensive than originally calculated or new information. I guess I'm just, only costs relating to consultant work done in connection with the project for which consultant fees have been collected, paid, maybe, okay. At the sole discretion of the commission, any consultant hires status with slow hour providers closer to.
So it seems to me, I read this, that there are a couple different fees being talked about. There's the fee you pay when you file a notice of intent that goes half to the town and half to the state or whatever. Then there's a filing fee that the commission might specify for, and then there's, in addition, and then there's consultant fees.
This is the peer review outline process,
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
and I think the point of what they're trying to get at here is that let's just take Deshang as an example.
Mhm.
He was hired to provide a service as a third party without us as an interdictor of some sort. So he's getting paid by the person who hired him. Whereas in a different context, we would be paying him, and so any pressure on Deshang, to do the work he's asked to do by the developer would be alleviated. And Deshang would be a true and honest third party, where I think
no,
that's
sure.
the gist of this.
It is the gist. I just don't like the expression fee. Fee
Yeah.
is a suggestion that you have a cost. So it's the connotation of the word, right? Fee sounds like something mean that I do at Bank of America, right? That they do horrible to the people who are their patrons.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what we're really talking about is a pass-through.
So then I think the thing to do here is to quote you, because if we change one word, then we're going to set off a legal fight, because I think fee is a specific legal term, probably was chosen for a very specific reason.
I'm not
Otherwise,
disagreeing.
I entirely agree with you.
Why can't fees not even be in here?
Well,
Why
because
can't they just be in regs?
so part of it is didn't the town? So what happened? Remember with the consultant bylaw,
They got rid of it,
they got rid of it
yeah,
because they said it was already covered by the state.
right.
They said we don't need to have our own consultant bylaw. The state has one. Okay. Well, that's what we're talking about here. Is a consultant bylaw.
Well,
Yeah.
not entirely. What it's talking about is specific to the town of Ayer, how such monies will be handled.
Right? Which is the town of Ayer saw that same thing and said, we're getting rid of our consultant bylaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, for whatever reason, this language is still in the bylaw that MAC puts out as a model. And I'm sure that they know the state bylaw for, consultants and peer review, etc. And so for whatever reason, they've kept this. And not knowing enough about that back and forth and those words, this part would make me nervous to get into too much revision.
Well, I guess the good news is that we're going to be back at this in a couple weeks to finish this whole thing. So we have time to write to Eugene and team and say,
Yeah,
our
what's up
biggest
with the
concern
language?
our biggest concern under applications and fees is that you have a whole section on fees, which would seem to be the consultant bylaw that's by the state, and our town went out of its way to purposefully remove their bylaw, their consultant bylaw, by town meeting. So, does this need to be here? This is a restatement of the... So the only thing I can think of, and I will say this, if you keep going down to the second to last paragraph, the entire fee must be received before the initiation of consulting services. Failure by the applicant to pay the fee within 10 business days shall be cause for the commission to declare the applicant administratively incomplete, deny permit without prejudice. So maybe they discuss the fee for the simple fact of discussing what happens to you if you don't pay the fee. Maybe the state's bylaw doesn't cover that. Because the consultant bylaw for the state wouldn't necessarily, a consultant bylaw says that they can, if you want to bring something to us, then, you have to pay for this. You have to pay for this consultant to be a third-party reviewer. Okay. But maybe the state's bylaw doesn't say, well, you didn't pay it, so therefore we reject you without paying it. I don't know. Maybe the whole reason to have 2 entire paragraphs on their consultant bylaw is so that you can then say, and by the way, if you don't pay us, we can deny you without prejudice.
Right, and I think, your question is a good one in the sense that everybody else who was at that town meeting will read this and have the exact same question, and we better have a tight answer.
There has to be a good answer because, quite frankly, otherwise, all I saw was the word fee written 1, 2, 3, 4, additional consultant fees 5, for which a consultant fee 6. I mean, it doesn't matter how open-minded you are.
Right.
It says fees a lot.
Yeah. I vote to get rid of them and define it.
I mean, unless you throw in some faux thumbs.
Yeah.
Well, so the town of Wellesley does
It's what a
just
giant.
defines it and separates it from the state.
It's what a giant would say.
What?
Fee 5 full
Fee 5
thumbs.
full foam, I
See,
didn't get that.
yeah, it's
Didn't get it.
it's fine.
Fee 5 full foam.
It's fine. So you said Wellesley. What does Wellesley do?
They separate it. Basically, they say, they just define it category-wise, the town bylaw fee, and they say fees are calculated by the committee or it's admin according to the schedule below. Town projects are exempt from fees. These fees are in addition to and separate from the state fees required to be paid to the Commonwealth and the town for filing under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act. So it's like they're just defining how the fees are to be,
Right.
paid.
But it still comes back to the same thing, which is we have fees, when in reality what we're trying to say is we have a consultant bylaw that the state approves that says if your project is big enough, it requires a third-party review.
Mhm.
It's the
So
same thing.
it seems like there are 3 different fees being talked about here.
Mhm.
There's the regular filing fee,
Yeah.
half to the state and half to us. To the state,
Which is
whatever.
currently, the fee is in addition to that required by the Wetland Protection Act and regulations. That's that fee.
Uh-huh.
What?
Second line, second sentence. That's
Yeah.
that fee in that one space.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So there's the WPA fees. Then they're talking about a filing fee specified in regulation. That's in addition,
Uh-huh.
That would be the local,
the local
The
fee,
if we
local.
chose to
if
have
we
one.
chose to do
Yeah.
that. And then the third area of fees is for consultants
Right.
reimbursement.
The 2 paragraphs
Yeah.
that go on from there.
And that's sort of confusing because they shouldn't actually put the consultant fee into the same paragraph. It's just confusing that it's,
So who decides on how to hire a consultant?
Well, in
Who-
fact,
who
that's one of the
decides
things that
that?
we would want to put in our regulations.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that would be.
So for
right.
instance,
Yeah.
a project larger than X square feet of disturbance will always require a separate review by a wetland scientist of the flagging and the overall project.
Right.
So
right.
for instance,
Right.
so like a project here's a perfect example. Think of Pingree Hill, okay?
Mhm.
We weren't smart enough, what did it come on? I said blue. We weren't smart enough at the beginning of Pingree Hill to jump up and down and say, this project is so big that here's the name of the company you're gonna hire that you're gonna pay for, that's gonna go over all your filings and review your wetland flags. We spent hours and hours and hours and hours out in the field as a volunteer board, because it was the right thing to do. Well, you know what would have been a more righter thing to do?
Yeah.
Would have been
Tell
to have
them
said,
hire.
here's who you're paying for, they're gonna go over all your application, they're gonna go over all your files, they're gonna go walk your flags.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still gonna walk your flags, but they're gonna do it first, and then we're
Yeah.
gonna walk it with you and them,
Yeah.
and they're gonna say, I had an issue over here, or soil's over here, or a
Right,
problem,
right.
whatever. And it's gonna be true third party because the project is so big and so significant
Okay.
that it could have a major impact.
So that's defined in, that
We
could
would
be
define
defined
that in
regs.
regulations, right.
Mhm.
What made a
Right.
project so
Right,
impactful that it required the use of a,
right.
And
And
we
that's
would-
just an auto trigger.
right, we would
if
establish the
there's a-
minimums.
If there was a
Right.
situation with
Right.
Takashi and Bill, we're like, you know what, I think X and I think Y, it's easy enough to just call on a tiebreaker and be like, you know what, we're not gonna rely on the developer, we're not gonna, have a fist fight on the commission, we're gonna, say, developer, you hire a third party, this is our question, please have it answered. And it's gonna be all laid out in the regs. And they'll be there.
There's another part to it which is pretty important, no matter how you want to look at it, which is one of the main reasons to invoke the consultant bylaw is that we just don't know enough about what we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
on some of these things, and we need to have
Mhm.
somebody go out there who can professionally review these things.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really crucial about that is that somebody comes in here and they don't act like we sprung them. Look, it's right there in the regs, right there in the toolkit.
Yeah.
You're taking on a project. By the way, if you come into us with a 50,000 square foot project and then 2 months later you come in with a 100,000 square foot project, your first project is now completely, your order of conditions is revoked. Your order of conditions is revoked because you should have combined the projects together. There's language for that in the state.
Yeah.
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 You should have combined the projects together and treated them as one project.
Right.
You are now, cease and desist, and you now have to come back in and redo the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel very comfortable if we were to, work the regulations in that way,
Mm-hmm.
because the whole point of that is to make sure that somebody doesn't break a big project up into 4 projects to try and get around anything.
Yeah. It just happened.
So,
So,
uh,
so-
local fee, will there be one?
No, I couldn't be more against it.
In no case, so Pingree Hill, for instance, in no case would you think it was a good idea for them to pay the regular state fee and then a local fee on top of things.
What does the local fee, so what do you do with the local fee if they pay it?
What do you mean?
The only reason to have a fee is to raise money. What are you raising money for?
Inspections.
I mean, you could start using it to cover, perhaps now that the town has generously given up its hard-earned money to pay the salary of a full-time agent, the commission should turn around and say, you know what, for projects that aren't just local residents trying to do something, you guys got to kick into the kitty.
Let me tell you what slope you just stepped on.
A
Okay?
very slippery one.
So have you ever been to the beautiful town of West Newton?
Once or twice.
So I walked into the town of West Newton with a set of plans, and I had calculated out all the money, and I said, so our building permit fee is $300. And the guy said, no, you have to include everything in the process. And I said, what? And he said, yeah. So you're telling me that the cost is this, and that's why your fee is that? And I said, I'm telling you that the cost of the framing, labor, etc., the plumber and the electrician are excluded. Those are separate permits. He goes, nope, that's not how we do it here. So you need to come in with the total price that your client is paying, and then we base the fee on that. And I said, that includes paint, wallpaper, the dishwasher. And he goes, yep. And the way that they did it is the fees pay for their entire department budget. So if you do a $300,000 project, it's a $3,000 fee for his 2 visits.
How do you prove something like that?
You don't let people have permits unless you play their game. So I can't even make this up. So I had to go to the customer, and I said, so let me tell you what happened. I said, I used the formula that we always do when we do a project like this, and I broke out electrical and plumbing, which are a big, big piece of your pie. And the building inspector here in town said, nope, this is the permit fee. And I said, you may go fight it with your town if you wish, or we can pay the fee. But I estimated it at, $500, whatever it was, and it's $3,000. I'm not sure exactly what you'd like to do. Think about it. And I came back, and they apparently talked to neighbors and other people, and they decided that they weren't going to be able to get around the $3,000 fee, and that's what they paid. So that's one
Okay, so
way.
that's one.
Is that spelled out somewhere?
The other thing.
Yes,
that you
it's
could do-
spelled out when you came to the counter and they told you no. So the other way that we can handle that is to say that projects beyond a certain size require inspections that the contractor pays for, based upon a third party.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of, but in terms of within the local filing fee space, would you want to just say flat out no local filing fees, because you could raise money for either additional, like a legal fund, say, so that it doesn't come out of the town budget when we want to review documents. You could create a complementary fund for, say, land acquisitions or trail upkeep.
Do you guys have any of this in Natick?
Yeah, we have the Conservation Commission there has 4 different funds.
Okay.
And so one of them comes from the mall, and that was a different story. And then there's the administrative
That was
one.
easy.
Yeah, that was a whole story. That's still a bit of a story.
It was arm twisting, that's what that was.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into arm twisting. I don't want us to be the commission that charges more fees to the people who... Now, I agree if you're not a local resident, but now all of a sudden, so that means Calvin Moore doesn't pay that fee, but...
Well, you get into, like you said, an acreage minimum or a square footage minimum or a earth disturbance. I don't know. You create a metric by which the vast majority of just people can get by without paying extra. And then the people that are going to come in and cash out on the community in some way, shape, or form, it's not quite that easy.
A lot of people would think that they're not cashing out because they're helping build the community, but so this is where it gets very political. I guess I'm extremely uncomfortable with the notion of a fee that doesn't have a place for it to go, and even then I'm uncomfortable with a fee because then it has a place for it to go. I'm very comfortable with a consultant bylaw that says we got to a certain point on your project, your project exceeds this, and therefore you're paying for this person to do this work because we don't have the people to come and do this. However, we did stand up in front of town meeting and say one of the reasons to have a full-time person was so that we could do these things.
Yeah.
So on a big project, I don't have any problem saying, nope, you're gonna have to work with us on this. This is your responsibility to pay for this. That's fine.
The consultant type thing.
Yes.
All right, so let's flip the question a little bit. Would you rather say fees, local fees, as outlined in our regs? In our regs, we put local fees 0, or come back saying 5 years and 10 years and say, you know what, we've determined we do need local fees. We want to bring this before town meeting and just add this sentence in to say we need local fees.
I guess I don't see a political environment where local fees sounds good at all. Because at some point, someone has to say, what's the local fee for? What is the local fee for? So that's why I guess I just have a huge problem with it. I don't know
Pond
where.
management, money suck.
What's that?
Pond management, the perennial money suck.
That would be a fantastic place to put it. But how do you justify that we charge you when you build a property on the far side of town
Right.
that you pay for our pond
Yeah.
fees?
It
Yeah.
seems sort of extortionist.
Yeah,
Thick.
yeah.
Okay.
Extortion may be just fine in Natick, and believe me, I'm sure it is. But you have them all.
So then delete the sentence and pick that battle some other time should it come up, or leave it as a 0.
Well, I think it makes much more sense to delete the sentence because, quite frankly, I want to take out all that language unless Eugene has a reason for it to be there,
Yeah.
and just ride on the consultant bylaw because that's where I see us charging somebody money for something that's necessary. The consultant bylaw is not only something that the state says is a good idea, it's something that we've experienced would be a good idea for us.
So you're talking about
So
in
the
that,
time of application.
at the time of an application, just getting rid of those first 2 sentences.
No, you'd keep the fee required by the WPA. You'd leave that probably in there.
Let's define, it's
Well,
gonna be
you have
defined.
to,
By the time of an application, the only
Yeah.
fee required is the one required by the WPA or something to
Yeah.
that effect.
Yeah, well, actually, at the time of an application, the applicant shall pay a filing fee specified in the regulations of the, and then cross out everything right up to Wetlands Protection Act. And actually, isn't it, the fee isn't required by the Wetland Protection Act? The
I don't
filing
know.
fee is required by the Department of Environmental Protection.
Well, it's specified in the Wetland Protection Act and regulations, like the way it's
Right,
written.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should be the DEP regulations, right? Because they're the ones who.
Well, no, because depending on like which agency, like theoretically they could change the name to DEP and then you're stuck.
That would be lousy.
All right.
So,
Good for this. I'll check with Eugene on the bylaw.
Yeah, what's the reason for all the filing fee language if the consultant bylaw covers everything that's written on here in 4 paragraphs?
Yeah, so then we're into notices and hearings.
Well, we would be, except it is 9:15, and I don't want to tell Jess what the score is. So, that was the reason we had this over 2 meetings. There was no way we were getting through it in 1. So, but
Notices and hearings should be easy because you've got it all in front of you on my comments.
I just
And you
heard
can read
George
the
say
sidebar.
that. George said, you know what would be keen? What if we had homework for the next one, too?
Yeah.
So what if for the next one we read the notice and hearings, coordination with other boards, and then that way we'll be able to buzz through those and drop right into permits and conditions, which everyone was supposed to do right before we get back to George's regulations.
Which gets us all the way to page 5.
There you go. You weren't here for the great debates of the past, believe me. We're flying. Wonder how much of it's because Takashi's not here.
alrighty.
All right.
All right.
We'll put this back upstairs.
We're cooking with gas.
Now we just have to, finish, post it, and then do this all again.
So did you make it? have
Well,
any-
no, finish, submit to the attorneys.
Well, I don't know that I could get the attorney feedback fast enough to then turn around and post on the 31st with attorney feedback included.
Well, hold on, what did we say in our,
Minutes?
I've got them right here, they're printed.
I could post it on the 31st and say, pending initial review from town
Well, we
attorney.
said that we would post it on we would send it to the attorneys on the 18th, so
Right.
Tuesday the 17th is our special meeting. Why didn't we do the 16th? Oh, Martin Luther King Day.
Right.
So we said we'd meet on the 17th, so on the 18th you walk in bright and cheery, you post it, and the attorneys would have an entire month to review
No, I come in on the 18th, bright and cheery, send it to the attorneys,
Yep.
and hope that they get something back to me by the 30th so that I can give it to Cindy so that she can have it posted for January 31st.
We don't need it until February 23rd. February 23rd is the night for public input, so as long as it's within the couple of days before that.
Well, that's not quite true because the letter that we wrote last week that Susan's putting in the town mailing had us posting it on the 31st so that people could read it in time to have 2 weeks of.
Then that's fine. Then it gets posted. So if we screwed up then,
Yeah.
okay? So that means it gets posted without Copman and page review, and it means that if we sit down on the 23rd and tell people that what they've looked at is garbage and we have to start over,
Yeah. Well, not over. Maybe we'll have to delete a sentence or.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
so
So potentially there's an asterisk on that. Yeah.
So did you have any new thoughts on the RFP while you?
I know, I'm just going to stop watching the game tonight and do this tonight so I can figure this for you so it can be done tonight.
It's a lot to it.
Motion to adjourn?
So,
Oh,